Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Thank you for everybody for your patience tonight. I'm just going to, I don't know if anybody else has joined since I did a little bit of announcement 10 minutes ago, but I know that we have a lot of attendees on Zoom, and I just also want to let you know on Zoom that if you go to our website, cityofmiltonga.us, and if you want to watch the meeting, go to I want to watch a meeting, and this is actually being videotaped through that process, but we will be able to take your questions via Zoom and be able to answer those or respond to your different questions. So with that said, let me go ahead and introduce myself and everybody who's here. I'm Robin McDonald, the zoning manager here at the City of Milton. We have Bob Bishima here, our community development director, so he's here, and Tracy Wilds, our development manager, plan review manager, and then we have our planner, our newest member of our staff is Jackie Lim. So she's helping us. This is our first CVIM, so please treat her well. Okay. Anyway, and then if there's anybody here, I don't think anymore in the audience is interested in the Freemanville Road rezoning. It's over here in this conference room. So yeah, yes, exactly. So if you can go in there and just kind of get an idea, we're going to have one of our have Tracy go into the other one. So if anybody on Zoom is interested in that item, please do a message through Zoom and let Jackie know. And then just bear with us. This is a very new process to have this community zoning information meeting via Zoom as well as in person. So again, we apologize if there's a little bit of inconvenience, but we're going to try to meet the needs here that you all have. So I think I'm going to, Tracy, you want to close that door because I think so welcome. If you've never been to a community zoning information meeting, I was telling people before, and for the people on Zoom or watching, and typically we don't record this meeting, but this is it seemed like there was a lot of people who requested it, so we thought it would be best. This meeting will be available on the website. Give me till about 10 o'clock tomorrow morning to get it up on the web. And if you go to cityofmiltonga.us and say I want to watch a meeting, and the archives, you have to scroll down, and it's going to be under community meetings. Okay, so you kind of scroll down a little bit. You have to go to council meetings. So with that said, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we're trying to be as transparent as possible. But again, this is an informational meeting. There's no decisions being made tonight. It's purely an opportunity for the community to talk to staff, to ask questions, as well to ask questions of the applicant. And again, it's not a decision that's not being made here. Our goal is just to help you understand the process as well as understanding what the applicant is requesting. Again, it doesn't mean that you agree with it or not. It just means that you want to have more information. That's really the goal of the meeting tonight. So with that said, I am going to kind of step through what the process is on a zoning, and this is true for any request that might come through the city that maybe in 6 months you might be interested in. So Pam Jackson has submitted for a request for 3 use permits on her existing farm. And so I'm going to go through the process first, and then I'm going to make a few comments about it in general. So for the rezoning process, this is the first of many meetings that are going to occur. Again, it's an informational meeting. No decisions are made. I do ask you to sign in just so I can keep track of how many people were attending tonight. So again, this is the first meeting. The next meeting will be the design review board. It's April 13th. It's a little bit more formal. We'll have 7 members along here from the Design Review Board. They're going to look at this application, and it's only what we call a courtesy review. They're going to make comments that's based more on design-oriented, not necessarily the use, because their goal or their vision and their task is to make sure that we have A-plus development here in the city of Milton. Okay, so that's going to be April 13th at 6 p.m. right here. It's on your letters if you have it. I have extra agenda, so if you need the dates, please come up to the table and we can give it to you. In between the Design Review Board and the Planning Commission meeting is a meeting called the Public Participation Meeting. Now, this is not a city-sponsored meeting, but it is required by the state of Georgia for our zoning procedures. It's for applicants to provide for a public participation meeting. And so when the applicant submitted their application, I was able to give them an Excel sheet of all the people within a quarter mile of the property of the farm. And so probably in the next couple of weeks, you're going to receive another letter, but it's going to be from the applicant. It's not going to be from the city. And they're going to set up a time for a meeting, and it's going to be at a specific place that they call out. I imagine it's going to be at the farm. And it's another opportunity for you all to come and talk to the applicant and ask questions, look at the property, whatever they have plans. So if you have any friends or neighbors that couldn't come tonight, then just encourage them. They can go to that other public participation meeting. Staff will not be involved with that. It is all upon the applicant to do that meeting, and then they give us a report about what happened, how many people came. They're going to make a copy of the sign-in sheet, issues that came up. So even though we're not there, we'll be aware of what came out of that meeting. Okay? So the next meeting that's sponsored or held by the city is a Planning Commission meeting. So that's scheduled for Wednesday, April 28th at 6 p.m. again here. And both the DRB and Planning Commission and City Council, they're all done in the same manner where we'll have Zoom available for people to participate as well as coming in person. So just want to let you know that. The Planning Commission is our first recommendation by our board about, so that's on a Wednesday, and I will have staff reports out by the end of Friday, so about 4 to 5 days prior, I publish a staff report with recommendations of what the applicant is requesting. So that will be on the web, and if you go to the calendar, if you can remember this, go to the calendar for that date of April 28th, and you click on the packet, and then you'll have the staff report. Or if you have a problem with that, please feel free to contact my office or me. I have my cards over here again. Robin McDonald, everybody knows who I am. Just I want to talk to that zoning person, and they'll get you to me, and I'll help you out. So I'm going to have a recommendation, and then it's going to be I'm going to present it to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission is a 7-person board that is appointed by each individual city council person. Okay, and same with the Design Review Board. Each of those members are appointed by each of the council members and the mayor. And so their job is to listen to what the staff has had to say about the proposal, as well as they're there to listen to the applicant, what they have to say, and lastly, and probably most importantly, they want to hear what the community wants to say about it. And so we're very liberal about, unlike this meeting where it's fairly informal, at the Planning Commission, we have the yellow cards, and we ask you to fill them out, and then you put your name and your address, and then we call you in the same order that you give it to me, and then you have an opportunity to speak. So typically, both for the Planning Commission and City Council, there's 10 minutes that are given to the applicant and anybody in support, and then 10 minutes for any opposition to speak. Now, you think, wow, that's not very long. And it really isn't when you have a big case like this with a lot of moving parts. The Planning Commission and the City Council is great. They want to hear everybody. They don't want to leave anybody out. So feel comfortable that your voice will be heard if you come to the meeting or want to participate through Zoom. So you're thinking, well, 10 minutes isn't very much. So let's say if the applicant and everybody in support goes 15 minutes, anybody in opposition is going to get the equal time. We've had different applications that's gone on for an hour or an hour and a half each side. Because again, both the Planning Commission and the City Council want to hear everybody and give you an opportunity to speak. So that's how that works. So after the public hearing is closed, then the 7 members of the Planning Commission ask the applicant questions or ask staff questions, and then they deliberate. They discuss the items in public, but they have a discussion amongst themselves in the public realm, and they are able to make a decision one way or the other. And so then at the end of the deliberation, then they make their vote to make a recommendation for each of the items that are being requested. So that same process happens at the City Council. But the difference is that the City Council, they're the final decision maker. They're not a recommending body. So they'll make the final decision whether to approve or deny, or to approve some things and maybe deny other things, or whatever comes out of it, okay? So that's basically the process that we go through these meetings. So the last meeting I didn't mention was the Mayor and City Council, which is June 7th. That's on a Monday. We have usually by the end of Thursday, the packet is available. Again, you can access it through the city calendar under the packet for the staff report. It's going to be very similar, just with additional items. So with that said, that's the process. Does anybody have a question about the process? You can raise your hand. Everybody? Okay, I either made everybody go to sleep or something. I don't know. Okay. Kind of boring, dry stuff, but I think it's important for everybody to understand what the process is. Okay? So with that said, we have before us an application that for 3 different requests for use permits. So let me explain before I get into the details of that. That the applicant's property is zoned AG1 agricultural, probably as much as most people here, they have property that's zoned AG1 agricultural. There are certain rights that are given to AG1. You may live in a platted subdivision where they have homeowners association rules and regulations that say, even though you're AG1, we're not going to allow you to have a horse. So they trump our zoning rules, because in AG1, we allow horses, or we allow cattle, or we allow crops to be propagated. We allow chickens. Whatever, we have a list of items under the AG1 zoning district that's permitted by right. Okay, meaning that you don't have to do anything special for it. Just by the point of owning the property and doing certain uses, you're allowed to do that. So let me give you some examples that kind of sound weird to be by right, or veterinary clinics. That's why you see the vet clinic at the roundabout at Freemanville and New Providence. New Providence and Birmingham. It's like, oh, what's this doing in the middle of everywhere? For whatever reason, it's by right. Other items are kennels. Those are allowed by right. You don't need to go through a use permit or a rezoning process. And so part of Ms. Jackson's property that she has been running is a winery. You're allowed to propagate grapes and have a vineyard in AG1. So I'm not going to get into all of the, I don't want to be controversial, but I want to say that we work closely with Ms. Jackson and her attorney to determine the use permits that we believe that is necessary for her to do the activities that she has been doing. Okay? But I just want you to understand that for her to have an equestrian farm is by right. I didn't mention that, but that is by right. For her to have horses, to board her horse, board other people's horses, have riding lessons, that's all very agricultural related and permitted by right. As well as the winery. And the state of Georgia also recognizes that is a permitted use in AG1 or agricultural type zoning district. So that's kind of the basics of what AG1 and her circumstances are allowed to do. There may be a few other things, but those are the main things. Okay. So with that said, there is 3 requests for 3 different use permits, and the first one is the agricultural related activities. And you're like, well, what in the world is that? Well, under our definitions, we believe that birthday parties, summer camps for children, I like to call it the children's use permit because it kind of covers kind of the things that she does and what she has operated in the past as providing services for. So that's the agricultural-related use permit. And then there's the use permit for the rural event facility. And so that basically is to allow for the weddings. We already have one that's operating, Little River Farms, over on Batesville and Taylor Road. They've been operating probably for 4 or 5 years now. And they was able to get an approved use permit for the rural event facility. So primarily that's for the weddings, corporate events, bigger parties type uses. Then the last one is a use permit for festival event indoor-outdoor. And you're like, well, what is that? Well, that's really geared toward concerts that are not related to ancillary uses. So, for instance, if she wanted to have a concert and she sold tickets to the concert. So we have that similar use with Matilda's up at Birmingham Crossroads. So that's the other use permit that is being requested. And with the first and third use permit, there's what we call concurrent variances being requested. And those are outlined in the letter if you received it, of the different ones. There's more for the festival event indoor-outdoor because it's considered more of a commercial type use, although it's permitted to be requested in AG1. Okay? So that's what's being proposed. So with that said, I don't know if Ellen, the applicant's representative, wants to make any other comments. You're good? Okay. Other than... Okay. Okay. If you want to come up here since it's being...
Have fun.
Yeah.
Good evening. They're having way more fun in there than y'all are in here. Good evening, Mr. Council Member. I'm Ellen Smith. I am an attorney with Parker Poe, and I have the pleasure of representing Ms. Jackson and the winery. And those of you who already have looked around, there is a site plan. There's several. They're all the same. They're just multiple copies, and feel free to get up and move around. Robin did all of my work for me, but I will just give you a little bit of background as well, which is this property is roughly 18 acres. It does not include the corner property at Bethany Way in Hopewell or the property just next to the corner property on Hopewell. It does include everything else, and I'm happy to show that to you on the survey, or the site plan rather. As Robin mentioned, there are 3 use permits. We have been working with the city because you can imagine we were caught off guard a little bit by the need to get a use permit to have birthday parties, which is something that has been happening on site for more than 20 years. And it happens throughout the city. Ms. Jackson's farm is not the only one that has horseback riding, which, as Robin mentioned, is permitted use, but that also hosts birthday parties and the like. So Our goal is to do what the city has asked, to come in and apply for use permits as they have delineated them. I do want to let you know there are all of the structures you see on the site plan exist with the exception of two. There is one which is an approximately 12,000 square foot building, which is not proposed anytime soon necessarily, but would be associated with the winery. It is primarily for winemaking uses. There would be a tasting room, which currently is in the basement of her residence, and that has been looked at by the fire marshal. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer those as well. But that would be associated with the farm winery. We're showing it out of just transparency. That's not part of the use permit requests necessarily. It is not a new concert venue. There is not a new stage going in. There isn't a Matilda's happening. But there's also a picnic shelter, and I'll be happy to point that out to you as well, just in case of rain, for people to run under if they're at the winery or at a birthday party or something else. And I'm happy to show that to you as well. We also have proposed conditions to the extent you have concerns about noise or hours of operation. Those conditions mirror the ones for each use permit that are already applicable to Little River Farms, which is the one Robin mentioned, and to Matilda's. So compliance in full with the city's noise ordinance, no change to that. Compliance in full with hours of operation, and more limitations, frankly, on hours of operation that are currently provided in the use permit ordinance. So I did bring extra copies of that. They're laying out on that table, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, and I'm happy to stand here and do it or let you walk around, whatever is easiest for you all. Sure. We don't own those. No. Mr. Gronholm's property, we do own. The city is demolishing the house that's on that in connection with the traffic circle that is going in on Hopewell. And the city acquired that in mid-January. There's no new entrance proposed. I mean, it's part of the traffic circle. The driveway that she has would remain, or it'll be moved and off the traffic circle. Did that answer your question? The brown house, Mr. Gronholm's house, is going. The city is demolishing that.
And just to let the people on Zoom, I think we put a message on that you can watch the meeting via our video online. If you go to I Want to Watch a Meeting at cityofmiltonga.us. And then also I just want to make a comment when I'm finished with the comments here in the audience. We'll have an opportunity. We can put the microphone up to the Zoom, and you can ask your questions or make your comments, or we'd be happy to read your comments to the audience. So, yeah, that'd be great. What is that? Monday, April 19th at the farm. 6:30. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so again, just for the edification of everybody out there in the virtual world, the public participation meeting that's being held by the applicant will be April 19th at 6:30 at the property, at the farm. So, and then anybody within that quarter mile should be receiving a notice as well. So just want to let you all know. Okay, back to y'all. So yes, sir. Okay, sure. Okay. For the details of the winery, I'll probably ask the applicant's attorney for that, but I can give you some background about what was discussed last summer. So last summer, the city council was considering the state of Georgia allows farm wineries to serve beer and spirits. Okay, but that doesn't mean it automatically happens. Each jurisdiction has to decide for themselves what can and can't be served. And so we went through a process the end of last summer to discuss this issue of allowing beer and spirits, or what's the other word for spirits? Yeah. Ultimately it was decided not to go through with it. So it was basically withdrawn. It died. So basically a farm winery can only serve wine. But as far as the details of where that wine comes from, I'm not the expert. But if you don't mind if the attorney explains it, and also I do have our a staff person who's pretty knowledgeable about it as well that can explain it. But if you want to talk about it. Okay, the winemaker. And this is exactly what this is about. It's about getting information.
So as a farm winery in the state of Georgia, we are allowed to sell any wine, foreign or domestic, here in Georgia. So a domestic wine is anything that's made in the state of Georgia. A foreign wine is anything made outside of the state of Georgia. So we have, through the city of Milton also, we are able to do that. As a farm winery, 40% of my produce has to come from the state of Georgia in order to be compliant, which we do. We get all of our Chardonnay, our Sangiovese from North Georgia. We grow all of our jalapenos ourselves. We do our figs ourselves. So 40% of our produce comes from the state of Georgia. The other 60% can come from anywhere else we want it to come from. So currently, we just sell wine. That's all we have. We now have, I think it's about 15 wines that we have produced at the farm. We do have vineyards. Please come by and see them. We have already won 3 medals on our wine, so that's great. But as far as the question goes, what can we serve? We can serve any wine from any place. Is that a good answer? Okay, well, see, that's where some of the confusion comes in. Let me try to explain that. We are one entity, the farm, okay? So we've got the equestrian side and we have got the winery side. The farm side, as far as lessons go and things of that nature, we open at 9 o'clock for the farm. That has nothing to do really with the winery. We are only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the winery. On Thursday, we are open 1 to 6 p.m. Friday, we are open 1 to 8 p.m. Saturday, 1 to 8 p.m. And Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m. That's the only time the winery is open, those days right there. So that 9 o'clock that you see is solely farm-related and equestrian-related. It will still stay within those hours, though. We're not going to go outside those hours. I'll have to ask my attorney that one.
through, sorry, it's not going through on Zoom, which went through, and Robin and Bob can tell us more about Matilda's. And let me say this is an initial draft. This is for your input. This is not saying anyone is serving anything or open until 11 p.m. every night or every Saturday night or every Friday night. It is proposing parameters that currently are not in place. So as an example, and there are more handouts, the proposal is the facility will close no later than 11. They can close earlier. Matilda's can close earlier. But that's the proposal. Which is not to say it's set in stone. That's also for the city council to consider. Sure.
You and future owners. I don't question your intentions, right?
No, that's why we're here.
I just wanted to know if ownership, let's see, does ownership convey, if she would sell the place, would that convey? Okay. Because I know it says that you're rejecting the 3-year approval, but you want, there's a 3-year, eliminate the 3-year period from the date of the city council's approval. What is that for?
Okay. I'll answer it, yeah, and I'll answer the other part. So use permits stay with the land. So if for whatever bizarre reason, if she decided to leave, those permits stay with the property. Any kind of, yes. And then in regards to the 3-year limit or come back, that's what you're allowed to ask for a variance to that. And it's just a decision of the city council whether they want to do that or not. That was the same request that Matilda's made. I don't want to get them, but it's not unheard of to ask for that. But it's ultimately up to the council, one, if they're going to approve it, and two, whether they would approve that portion of the concurrent variance. So it's not one and all. They're all in pieces. So the council has an opportunity to make a vote on each use permit, and then within each of the 2 use permits that have concurrent variances, they can vote yay or nay to the different parts. That's why I said it's a 7-part concurrent variance. They could choose to approve 1, 3, 5, and 7. I don't even know what they're. I'm just throwing out numbers. So they get to have the ability to discern what they feel like is the best for the community. Yeah.
So to answer you, what I'd like to add to that is as far as the winery goes, though, the winery is permitted through me personally. I have to be licensed personally at the federal, at the state, and at the city level. I have to be bonded at the federal and the state level. So the winery licensing would not carry over into anybody else. Anybody else that would buy the winery or whatever would have to go through the licensing and bonding process themselves. So, you know, if they don't get that, well, who's going to come to a farm for a wedding where you can't do anything? I can't tell you that. I don't know. Yeah, but the winery part does not transfer over.
So I'll give an example. Jeff Runner on the farm up on Hopewell, he came before the council a few years ago to have a wedding facility, and it was approved and there was a modification, but ultimately he didn't operate it. But with that said, if somebody purchases his land, the portion that had the use permit, because not the entire farm did, just the front acreage did, then they would be allowed to do it. But let me give you a caveat. He never operated it. He never he never implemented the concurrent the variances that were granted. So if Mr. Smith comes and buys his property and I want to have an event facility, well, he's going to have to go to what we call the Board of Zoning Appeals to ask for whatever appropriate variances he needs to operate it. So Mr. Runner lost the variances, but he has the use. They are. Right. I mean, we can't predict the future whether somebody will take that up and operate it or not. And then that's an opportunity. Okay.
Fabulous, and we've had people that have been questioning it, have been a little bit opposed to it. First time they come, they say, oh my gosh, this is awesome, we have needed this here, and so see for yourself would be the best thing. Don't just, listen, come and see.
Sir?
So he asked me a question. May I answer that question? First off, I'd just like to say that our music ends at 7 p.m. every night. So how you sit in your house at 8 p.m. and hear our music, I'm a little bit confused on that. Well, that's okay, but we also, every single weekend, we have the police out there, and they are doing decibel checks. We don't even hit anything that could possibly come over to your area. We are in a hollow, so you can go to the police yourself and ask, what are the decibel checks? If you would like to sit in your home and do a decibel check, let us see that, but I don't believe, honestly, that you can hear us over there, and it's not us then. We are totally acoustic. I have heard that, they can hear the bass beating over there. We've not had bass. So that's, there's that information out there that is absolutely incorrect.
So
Okay. I'll let Robin.
Okay. So I know it's a little so we have minimum requirements for notification, and we try to be as transparent as possible, and when I put together the packet for the information, I try to put that up with the initial application for each of them. So it wasn't on page 88, but it might be on page 15 or 20. With that said, we can't really send out all the information with the notices. We're meeting what the minimum, actually we go over the minimum requirement of the state law. So we're just doing the best that we can. I understand this is a big project in the sense of there's a lot of moving parts. There's 3 different use permits. There's certain variances that go with 2 of the use permits. I totally get it. It can get complicated. By no intention are we trying to hide anything. That's exactly why we put out the entire application to the public so you can examine it. So again, I don't really have an answer for you how we could get all the information out. but we did get the information out. So, yeah. The transportation part. Yeah, so that is something that we'll be looking at. Our transportation engineer will be looking at the application and then making a determination. But I think the applicant in there, Ellen can talk about it, if need be, that they would do a traffic study. So. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
There isn't an intent to change what is happening on site now. No. It didn't. It wasn't intended to, and if it read that way, that's my fault for drafting it that way. So, to be clear, this isn't a new Matildas. The reason I keep saying Matildas is there are 3 use permits, right? So, the kid-friendly ones, as Robin calls it, the agricultural stuff. There isn't another one, I think, in the city that has ever been issued. So, I don't have an example to give to you for that. What I can say is it's been happening on site, right? There have been birthday parties. We have been very transparent with the city about that. No one is hiding anything that has been happening on site. Those things have been happening, and there's a timeline since I was in high school, and I'm fairly old. So, a long time. There is not an intent to increase traffic. There is not an intent to increase capacity. There have been weddings on site in the 90s that went up to 375 people. Those are not every day. It is not the intent to have them every day. It is not the intent to have them every weekend. There have been concerts over the last year on Saturday nights. They are typically the second Saturday night of the month. Those have had roughly 200 people. There were 2 special event permit applications, one for November 11th, I think, and one for December 5th. I might have the dates backwards. The intent is to not have more events than that with respect to that 3rd use permit. So, pardon the drafting, but this sheet is intended to be something that you can react to. And I mean that sincerely. So, with respect to a traffic study, yes, we will have one if we need it, but the intent is there is a traffic management plan. It happens. There are police when there are more than 75 or 100 people. If it's a pretty weekend, there are police that are hired, that are paid for off duty, and they manage traffic along with, they've used valet services and other parking attendants before. So your question was, will there be one? If it's required, if the traffic engineer from the city requires it, yes, and yes, it would be provided before any decision or vote by the city council.
And I mean, it's a challenging thing because it's like everybody wants all the information right away, but it's a process. So just bear with us in that. Yeah. So I'm not from the Public Works Department, but I can check on that, but I do not think that would impact what is going to happen with the roundabout at Hopewell and Bethany spend. So, but that's a great question, and we'll try to address that. Right, it's converging together. I get that. No, I mean, I think there's definitely a schedule that has to be met with that, and there's certain funding that has to be spent by a certain time. So, again, okay. No, I know. It's, by the way, I'm at the city. Let me ask this. That's a great question. I'd love to get back with you because I don't know the exact answer. I don't want to give you the wrong answer. So please have my card, and then we'll get back with you. Or I'll have, okay? Okay. Yes, sir.
Oh, hello. You were going to come and visit us. How are you? Sarah, right? Good. All I can say.
We thought it was our neighbor.
Well, I think it must be your neighbor.
We got in the car and drove down and rolled the windows down and we were having a concert.
Well, when was that?
Every time, I mean, it's not a
You can't hear it from different parts of our own property because we're in a hollow. So, with all due respect, it's not our music you're hearing. It's not possible. That's why we have the police out there.
Yeah. So, yeah.
But we don't have any bass, and you said you hear bass. Still hear it.
Music going on. So to tell us that we are not hearing what we are hearing is inaccurate, and that is wrong. What's more, our concerns about traffic are all related to what has happened over the last year, not the last week, not the last month, but since the beginning of 2020, we have all noticed a significant increase in the traffic on our road coming into your place around that corner. And that is when the police really started to be there on a regular basis with the blue lights on. This has only happened over about the last year. And we have seen many more cars, and there have been times when the police have stopped traffic to direct in or out of your facility. It has backed up to the curb on Bethany Way, and people coming down around that blind curve are coming blindly, not knowing that traffic is stopped on the other side of that curve. So yes, we all have concerns about traffic. We have noticed over the last year and 3 months, a significant increase in traffic. We've also noticed a lot more cars parked on your property, a lot more cars. And in fact, the Saturday before last, we noticed those cars parking at Bethany Oaks Pool and Tennis Court and people walking across the road. So we have concerns about much more traffic. We have concerns about much more noise we can hear not only outside of our homes, but inside of our homes. And that is not something we are making up, and we have confirmed that it is coming from your property. Now, the whole question of hours is very misleading because you're saying to us, we are only operating at these hours, but this use permit is asking for the hours of operation to be what is stated on that page. And so we are assuming that if that use permit is approved, those are the hours that you will have the capability, whether you choose to do it immediately or not, to operate. And that page says there can be music going on until 10 o'clock at night on Friday and Saturday nights, and that your facility can be open until 11. That alcohol would stop being served 15 minutes before the music stops or the event stops. That's what we're concerned about. That's what we're looking at. That is the parameter that would be approved. Moreover, under the third user permit, events festival that you're asking for, yes, it says we can only have one ticketed music event a month. And next to that it says, excluding weddings, anniversaries, birthday parties, other events where you may choose to have a band or someone wants to have a band or live music. So it's not just one night a month that we can expect to hear music coming from there. It could come whenever there's a wedding or an anniversary or birthday party or whoever decides to hire music. So there are some more concerns here than you are addressing. What is written on those pages, what would be allowed. And I've lived here, as you know, 25 years. There has not been regular wedding events, regular any kind of events going on over there with the traffic that we have seen since the beginning of 2020 during that time. Not in 97, not 98, not 2000. This started at the beginning of 2020. I know the birthday parties have been going on. That's no problem. It doesn't involve a lot of cars. It doesn't involve loud music. It seems a good use for an agricultural property. But to say we want to have a live music venue, a commercial use in the middle, embedded in a residential neighborhood where there's no commercial pod anywhere near that property, and suddenly we're going to have a commercial use in the middle of our residential neighborhood. That is of concern to a lot of us who want the quiet enjoyment of our own property. We want to be outside at our house, at our pools, having our events with our friends and family, and not have to be listening to your music or working our way through your traffic. And this is what all of your neighbors are thinking, in case you were not aware of that.
So I want to address some of the issues that people on Zoom may have, and we may either read or if they want to speak. So bear with us, please. Where do you want to start? Okay. So, and I apologize. So right now, if somebody wants to speak through Zoom, can you go ahead and raise your hand through Zoom? And then we'll try to answer those questions right now. I know some people have made comments, but anybody who wants to actually speak, can you raise your hand? Okay, these are. So until I have anybody raising their hand, I'm going to go ahead and read some items that we've collected. From Carrie, what is the current capacity of the winery/events right now? So,
Nothing is indoor except a tasting room, which is limited to 15 people maximum at any time that the tasting room is open. Otherwise, there's no limitation.
Okay.
Probably 100 on a weekend, with the sunny weekends, maybe sometimes up to 125. But we have a limit ourselves of 200. So we cut off at 200. We close our gates. We don't want more than that on the property ourselves.
Anybody else? Okay. It has to do with the CUP. So to Nicholas, I can that item. Let me be able to give that information to the applicant. So for you. Yeah, that's the Freeman. No. And okay, and then Carrie Shannon. Sure. So let me unmute you. Oh, I see. Can you fix it? So we're working on it. Trying to get you unmuted. You can unmute. Okay.
So I think, I've just been listening. All about it, but since we have also, I think that there's an issue here about intent. Well, intent is incredibly subjective. Opportunity for an event to happen. That might not, but who's to say that's not your intent long term? So I think that that's something that is at that hour. Like, I'm not okay with, 10, 11 o'clock after drinking, and now after also being able to drink spirits and have that opportunity too. I mean, I think that that's also something that needs to be discussed as well.
Okay. Thank you so much for your comments. Okay. And then Kelly. Could you hear it at all? Okay. I'm sorry. It's not working. Okay. So basically, that person was talking about not being in support of it, basically because of the use, and then being, and it's very subjective and intensive, as well as, and again, I'm paraphrasing, and then ultimately about the alcohol and people leaving the premises at a late time, possibly being influenced under that. So. Okay. Next, yeah, you can do. So the next person is David. Yeah, do David. Okay. 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 So, yeah. So let me go backwards. So one question was about fireworks. Any fireworks going to be happening? So the applicant has said no. I mean, she has horses herself, so I don't think she's going to have fireworks. And then basically this gentleman was said in general, he's not opposed to it, but he's concerned about the traffic and and the music. Yeah. So, yes, sir.
My name is Ray Parker. I own Big Door Vineyards in Cherokee County. And I had to go through the same process and the same concerns. And so I understand. But let me just kill a few myths right now, if I can. One, the 11 o'clock time that keeps coming up, that's not set by them. That's a state law. So, but they will have to go in and negotiate for a time. But when you're seeing that 11 o'clock, that's what the state requires, not them. Traffic, the difference in the traffic, and then we're the same way. We're 16 acres of ag in a subdevelopment. We're the same situation. But what happens in a winery, people don't come in like a football game and leave like a football game. They come in like a herd of turtles. They come in one at a time, two at a time. They leave that way. So it's never a situation where people leave and everybody's leaving at one time. They've been proactive and they brought in a cop, and we've done it 2 or 3 times. They're required to do that. If they have over 200 people and have a special permit, they're required to do it by law anyway. The type of crowd that we have is, we just don't have any trouble. I know everybody in here is thinking, man, we're going to have a bunch of people in there raising hell and everything, but it's not that type of crowd. These wine drinkers. And I'm not reclassifying, but we just don't have any trouble. And another thing, I talked to Cindy Norton today, and Cindy Norton, Cindy Simpson is with Norton. She provides insurance for 50 wineries in the state of Georgia. 50. She's never filed a claim on a farm winery. Because people always think, well, somebody's going to drive out there and get killed. Well, somebody got killed in our church last year, but we hadn't had anybody get killed in our winery. So it'll happen eventually. I'm sure it will. You know, I mean, but anyway, it just never has happened. The DVs that they're talking about right now, she feels like she's got a good case. You feel like you got a good case. But she's afforded the same luxury you are. If you're disturbing the peace and you got your radio blasted at 85 dBs, they're going to come shut you down. And they're going to come shut her down. So you call the police. You know, you call the police and you make them go over there and put the proof of burden on Miss Jackson. And make them shut her down. And if she's doing that, if they got a bass player and a drummer there, we'll shut them down. So you got the same luxury she has. So you can't get at the back of your property and turn on a loud radio and drive her crazy either. So y'all got the same thing. All right. That's a few things I want to cover. I've been through all this before, so if anybody wants to ask me anything, feel free to. I do not. I'd like to, but with the law, I can. She nailed it. 40% of her crop has to come from the state of Georgia. I don't know Miss Jackson. Have we ever met? I don't know her. The wine industry in the state of Georgia has been a phenomenal growth in this last few years. I'm a proud board member. I just rolled off this past term, but I'm very proud of what we've accomplished in the state of Georgia. And we just got a commodities bill passed. I'm very proud of that, and I was on the board when that happened. So we created something in the state of Georgia that's very unique. It's growing very fast. And what we have is people, and you neighbors, you might be, well, anyway, we're the place where everybody comes. Miss Jackson said it. When they drive up, I promise you, when you drive to our place, you're going to get the phone out and you're going to start taking pictures. It's just a great place to go and relax. And if you want to sit out on a bench way out there, you can do it. If you want to come inside and get some music, you can do it. If you want to eat or whatever you do, you can do it there. But it's just a good place to go relax. And I'm too old to go to a bar and love music. But I'm just too old to go. But I can go to a little winery and hear little, gowns, acoustic guitars, and banjos and stuff like that. I really like it. So I think it's an enjoyable thing for a lot of people. And when Miss Jackson's talking about a great day, and we've got the same situation she's got. She's on 18 acres. I'm on 16. We'll do 300 a day. 300. But they don't come in and out like that. They don't, they stagger in, stagger out. They just don't come in and out like that. And we were proactive when we opened. We hired policemen, and they came out there, and they did a fantastic job. And if you have over 200 people out there, you got to have a special bit permit anyway, and she'll have police out there. But the one thing about the decibels, I know it's a sore subject for everybody. You live in your house, you don't listen to it. But you don't have to listen to it. She don't have to listen to y'all. I mean, that goes both ways. Any other questions? I'm in Cherokee County. Yes, ma'am. No, wineries are coming in at speed of light. I'm in the speed of light. You know, it's a place for people to go and relax and enjoy themselves. They're coming in. When in 2014, there were 28, and when I signed on 2 years ago, there were 62, and now there's 100. They're coming.
So, anybody else in the audience have a question for me or for Ms. Jackson or her representative?
Variance where it says eliminate the 3-year period, where it says eliminate the 3-year period from the date of the city council's approval. What is that for the city council to go back and reevaluate?
So, yes.
So it would be my wish that that would stay in, because in 3 years, she'll be building her own facility that will hold the 250 people, and that's going to be a whole different dynamic of what you're looking at now. And I think you're underserving people by not talking about Mr. Runner's variance, that there is another live variance right across this direct kitty corner from her property that is active right now for all these same people that are concerned about this.
So, I mean, there's a use permit that's been approved, but I will say that the variances for Mr. Runner's property would have to be asked for again through the Board of Zoning Appeals. Correct. Right. I mean, the use is still there. Yes, definitely. Right. Oh, no, you're good. You're good. You're totally good. Yeah.
To say that these use permits are not about whether or not this winery is going to exist in this place. The winery is there. It's state approved. We're not discussing whether or not there's going to be a winery there. The conversation is whether or not there's going to be large events like weddings that start at a specific time, birthday parties and anniversaries that tend to start at a specific time. Certainly, if you're having a ticket event for a concert, it's going to start at a specific time, which all means that people are likely to come in around the same time. I understand if it's a winery that people can meander in and out during the day. They can, and for the agricultural events, that is a perfect way to spend an afternoon meandering in and out, enjoying the winery, seeing what's there with the animals, maybe tasting some wine. But that's not really what these user permits are all about. They're about having large events there and having loud music there, with most of the functions occurring outside, not indoors. So there's not a buffer for a lot of the noise from that place. So the problem isn't with the winery. It is neat that there's a winery there. I think everybody can enjoy that aspect of it, and the pride that she has in the product that she's developing in the wine. It's the other things that she'd like to have with it that are an issue for the community, not the winery. That's really not the issue.
I was just going to say that I think we've talked about Matilda's many times here, and personally I'm very much against what was approved over at Matilda's. If you went over and talked to the homeowners that are adjacent to that facility today, or you put that vote up to the electorate and had them truly understand what impact is happening to those people that live over there, I think you'd find out that it was a terrible decision, and those people are very upset with the music and noise that's going through their homes. So I would not be using Matilda as an example of what the city has approved before. Thank you.
Okay, let me see what's over here. Okay, from Kelly, the question is there a cutoff for ticketed events? What about non-ticketed events? Do you stop admitting people after a certain capacity? Okay, there's limits. There'll be a limited number of tickets to be sold for the...
We close the gates, and the police officers that are there know the parking attendants go out and tell tell them, we have no more space, close the gates, and they are closed. We let no more people in at that point until our parking lot clears out again. So we take pictures every single day of the streets, the roads, every place else, so that we have information that there are no cars parked on the streets. There are no cars parked at Bethany Oaks. There are no cars anywhere but on our property.
I believe on the, is it 60 some that's proposed, the number of parking spaces.
To meet the city's minimum requirements, but that doesn't. There are pervious parking spaces, and I think Ms. Jackson said no more than 200. Correct, as permanent parking spaces. The difference is gravelled, and currently there are gravelled and paved spaces and ADA required spaces. The city allows for pervious parking as well. We have proposed a traffic plan that will be filed. I'm happy to email to any of you if you want to email me. If you want specific pieces of information, we will get that on file as well. And same thing, you asked specifically with respect to the conditions and the timing and all that. That is intended to be proposed. It's for discussion. It is not intended to be, and the Zoom caller said intent. This is the purpose of these meetings, is to hear from you and to take that back and to make adjustments. But also, the reason I keep saying Matilda is because the only one that the city's approved, just to give you an idea, stage size, square footage size, Matilda's 3 times larger than the pavilion stage that Ms. Jackson has. So I respect, and I'm not trying to say we want to be like Matilda's. That's not my goal. I agree. I just wanted to let you hear it. It wasn't because there's any aspiration to be like Matilda's, because that's not the case.
A lot of conversation around intent, and I think you brought it up. One of the Zoom commenters, who's actually my wife, talks about intent as well. When should we expect to see specificity from you guys with regards to? No, I got it. But your answers tonight have all been around what we intend to do, the intent. So you're saying that everything that we need, specificity-wise, is inside of that.
It's kind of like a negotiation, right? In a way, just to hear one side and to respond to that.
Should there then be a step back to repropose everything? So rather than say, well, at what point do you sort of say, okay, now there's a final negotiation, and then where's the chance for community input? Because we get into these next meetings where you have 10 minutes to speak for everybody.
That's in part what the public participation meeting would be. I think that's another great opportunity for the public to come and interact with the applicant. That's fine. And so what they'll do is they give me a report about what's been discussed and questions and how they answered those questions. They're required to give a report. So I don't think it's you can't have progress between the applicant and the community. It's just another opportunity. But again, if we need additional meetings as far as just discussing between it, we can make that happen. If there's representatives of the community who want us to get together with the applicant and talk through things with staff there, I mean, that's definitely a possibility to happen. So we just want it to progress, and we want to make sure. I'm not saying for or against. I'm just saying this is a process. So anyway, let me see what's going on over here. What's that? Okay. Okay. So, any other questions or concerns? And again, we have this meeting until about 9 o'clock. So if you want to still hang out and talk amongst yourselves or come and look at the site plans, and if you want to ask specific questions to Ms. Jackson and her representative, then that's fine. Again, it's very informal. So, or if you want to come up to us and ask questions, that'll be fine as well. So, any other last comments, questions? Okay. Thank you.